Kenny Trill. Man, oh man, you want to talk about a fall from grace? Look no farther than this story right here. Believe it or not, this guy rose to the top within a blink of an eye, but somehow, someway, he managed to fall off even faster. This is single-handedly, without a doubt in my mind, one of the most bizarre stories you will hear about in college football history. Why's that? Well, it has a little something to do with only 5 games into his freshman season, he was considered to be the Heisman Trophy favorite, and his parents were already filing a trademark for his nickname, Kenny Trill. I'm going to repeat that. He was the Heisman favorite only 5 games into the season. He was on top of the world, yet 3 games later, he was benched for the backup quarterback. You want to talk about going from the highest of highs to lowest of lows? I can't find a better example. In the same season he was supposed to win the Heisman Trophy, he was suspended for 2 games for violating team rules. It's worth mentioning, this wasn't his first time being suspended from the team, this was his second time. The first time, he was publicly intoxicated and found passed out in a bar. I know it seems like everything I've said, it's a lot, but I'm going to remind you, that was all in a couple of months. Things just continue to get worse and worse and worse for this guy, and it leaves us with the question we're going to try to figure out today. What really happened to Kenny Hill? Oh man, I'm excited to get into this one because I remember this guy so vividly, and the thing I remember the most when I hear the name Kenny Trill, and by the way, I'm going to refer to him as Kenny Trill because that's just a cool nickname. The thing I think about the most when I think of him is that arm sleeve he wore at Texas A&M. I think y'all know what I'm talking about, that Adidas striped arm sleeve. When I think of Kenny Trill, I think of that. And oh yeah, by the way, sometimes I forget to say this, but if you enjoy story times, basketball, football, content like this, consider joining our community. We would love to have you here, and there's a ton of you watching that aren't subscribed. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, you get absolutely nothing for subscribing, but here's the catch. It doesn't hurt you and it doesn't cost you a dime. Well, you do kind of get something. You get to be a part of our community, and we're growing something special over here. We would love to have you here. But getting on track with today's video, I'm excited because this is almost like a trip down memory lane for me, and to get into this story, you already know we got to throw it all the way back to where things started. I'd go out on a limb here and say good old Kenny Hill, he was a pretty dang good football player, even in high school. He played his football at Carroll High School in Southlake, Texas, and they take football very, and I mean very seriously over there. For those of y'all that don't know, some of the stadiums, and I'm talking about high school stadiums in Texas, are bigger than college stadiums. You know what they say, I know it's cliche and corny, but everything's bigger in Texas, and that applies for football as well. Football is life or death over there. They eat, breathe, and sleep it, and Kenny Hill, he put on a show for the fans. As only a 10th grader, he had 1,762 passing yards, 14 touchdowns, and only 5 interceptions, and that's not too bad. But fast forward in time to his junior season, this is where he took off. He had 2,888 passing yards with 25 touchdowns to only 9 INTs. But here's something you need to pay attention to. On the ground in that junior season, he had 280 carries for 1,399 yards. Not too bad, right? And oh yeah, I can't forget to mention and throw in there, he had 24 rushing touchdowns. And fast forward in time to his senior season, he had 3,373 passing yards, 27 passing touchdowns to only 3 INTs. It doesn't get too much better than that. And I know, I didn't forget about it. His rushing numbers, they were up there. He had 191 carries for 1,430 yards with 33 rushing touchdowns. I think it's safe to say that Kenny Hill was more than just a good football player. He was great. This is one of the most prestigious honors you can get. He was named as the Texas Gatorade Football Player of the Year. With him having an outstanding high school career, this was good enough to land him as a 4-star recruit and the 9th dual-ranked quarterback in his class. A lot, and I mean a lot of schools wanted him, but when it came down to it, he decided to commit and sign with Texas A&M. And I would say, maybe not a main reason, but this had to play into it a little bit, is he was seeing what Johnny Manziel was doing. And when you looked at the way Johnny Manziel played and compared to how Kenny Hill played at the high school level, very similar play styles. They both had similar play styles, so yeah, it made a ton of sense to go to A&M. I see exactly what Kenny Hill was thinking. Hey, if he succeeded in A&M and we play the same, I should fit in just fine. And I don't know if he was thinking that, but if he was thinking that, he couldn't have been any more right. As a true freshman, he was still sitting behind Johnny Manziel, who was coming off that Heisman season, but in 2014, Kenny Hill won the starting job. And check this out, this man didn't waste no time whatsoever, because in his first career start against top 10 ranked South Carolina, he broke Manziel's passing yards record with 511 yards and 4 touchdowns in a 52-28 win. It was unreal, and I can't hype it up enough. Against the top 10 team, he completed 46 out of 60 passes, which is over 70%, and had 500 yards and 3 touchdowns. To follow that up, he had 3, yeah, I'm going to label him as cupcake games, but he still went out there and balled out. I'm going to show you the numbers right here. 280 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 300 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and 265 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. And then right after that, they had had a big time matchup against Arkansas, and he still played relatively solid. His completion percentage was only around 51%, but he had 400 passing yards with 4 touchdowns to 1 INTs, and more importantly, the W. They were sitting at 5-0. This might arguably be the most important part of our story. At this point in time, A&M, they're 5-0. Kenny Hill, who's turning into Kenny Trill, has 17 touchdown passes to only 2 INTs. There's a lot of buzz about this guy, and he's the leading candidate for the Heisman Trophy. And like I stated in the intro, his parents took time out of their day to file a trademark for the name, quote-unquote, Kenny Trill. This guy was a superstar, and at the time, yes, he was looking like a bad man. I remember. I'm not going to act like he wasn't a bad man. This guy was looking like he was going to win the Heisman Trophy. But then, after that Arkansas game on October 4th, they had a road game against 12th-ranked Mississippi State. And this is where I'm going to say that good old Kenny Trill got served a piece of humble pie. He finished this game going 37 for 62, 365 passing yards, only completed about roughly 60%, and had 4 touchdowns to 3 costly INTs. And more importantly, his team lost by 17 points. Nobody was writing him off just yet, but it was like, okay, this guy, he's not invincible, he's human, he's going to make mistakes. And then right after that, they had an even tougher game against 3rd-ranked Ole Miss. This is where Kenny Hill showed yet again he's not invincible. Yes, he was 42 for 53, completed 80% of his passes, had 400 yards, but yet again he had 2 INTs. And this led Ole Miss to victory, in which now A&M is coming off of back-to-back losses heading into Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And man, oh man, I remember this like it was yesterday. To say it was ugly would be understating it 10 times. Texas A&M not only got embarrassed in this game, but they were like a middle school football team. Alabama won 59-0. And Kenny Hill in this game, yet again, looked average. 17 for 26, a $130 through the air, 0 touchdowns to 1 INT. And that was pretty much the nail in the coffin to Kenny Trill. Even after the, I wouldn't say they were bad, but not so great performances against Mississippi State and Ole Miss, people weren't writing him off. They were like, hey, let's see what he can do against Alabama. And yeah, he didn't look bad against all these 3 teams in these back-to-back-to-back losses, but he looked average. He didn't look good. And that's what hurt him the most. And to go on top of all of this, if it wasn't bad enough for him, he got suspended for 2 games. Why did he get suspended? Well, we'll just leave it at this. It was violation of team rules. And as crazy as it sounds, that was the end to the Kenny Trill experiment. He asked for his release of Texas A&M, his scholarship, and they granted it, and he wound up transferring to TCU. Remember, this is back in 2014, 2015. There wasn't this, oh, you can transfer right away and play. He had to sit down a season. So Kenny Trill definitely fell off the face of the earth because he didn't even play in 2015, so everybody forgot about him. But just like Lee Corso says, not so fast, my friend. Kenny Trill's story wasn't over quite just yet. With him sitting out that 2015 season, he had nothing to do but work, and I guess you can say all that work, it paid off because he was announced as a starting quarterback for the TCU Horned Frogs in that 2016 season. And he didn't have the greatest season ever, but I wouldn't say it was necessarily too bad. TCU did finish with a 7-6 overall record, and he had 3,200 passing yards, completed 61% of his passes, and had 17 touchdowns to 13 INTs. So yeah, going off of those numbers right there, I think we can agree it was average. TCU, they wasn't that great of a team, and he wasn't that great of a quarterback. He was good at best. But fast forward in time, heading into next season, which is 2017, it felt like TCU and Kenny Hill, they had something to prove. In 2017, Kenny Hill had a really solid season and TCU did as well. They finished 11-3. And check out these numbers. These are even better than what I remember. He had 3,150 passing yards, completed right at 67% of his passes, and had 23 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. Yes, I get it. It doesn't wow you, it doesn't amaze you, but those are definitely good numbers. And I'm going to remind you, he was doing this on a winning football team. He was a key part and reason they went 11-3. After the 2017 season, I'd say Kenny Hill was ending his college career on a really good note, considering how bad things looked at the end of his Texas A&M career. He was ended in a great way. Since he was done with college, he decided, hey, I'm going to go play professional football. And unfortunately for Kenny Hill, I think everybody saw this coming, he was undrafted. Although he did go undrafted, he signed a contract with the Oakland Raiders, but he was cut shortly after. Shortly after the Raiders cut him, he wound up signing a deal with the Montreal Alouettes, hope I'm saying that correctly, and yeah, he didn't stay there much longer either. For those of y'all who don't know, the Montreal Alouettes, and I may be saying that wrong, that is a Canadian football league. Or my bad, that's the wrong way to say it. That's not a Canadian Football League. That's a team a part of the Canadian Football League. You get what I'm trying to say. He wasn't there too long because in the same year in 2018, he was hired to be a student assistant at his alma mater, TCU. And he was doing a really good job because in 2019, he was promoted to be a graduate assistant. And then the year after that, he was promoted again to be an offensive analyst. And most recently, in 2021, he was promoted to the quarterback's coach. You gotta give credit where it's due. Every single season, he was promoted. I'm just gonna clap it up for for Kenny Hill. I'm definitely proud of him. Okay, that was a weak clap. We got to get in a real applause. Clap it up in the comment section. But most recently in this 2022 season, he was California's offensive quality control analyst. I know that's a mouthful, but yeah, that was his job title at the time. But then on January 12th in 2023, our current year, he was named as the running back / associates head coach at Incarnate Word. I do believe I'm saying that correctly. It's Incarnate Word, and no, that's not some random thing. That's actually a college. So hey, congratulations to Kenny Hill, and yeah, that's pretty much the end of this video. It ended so weirdly, because normally when we do these story times, you guys know this, they end in such terrible ways. Normally it's like, okay, the player just fell off, he's broke, he's doing bad in life, but this situation, Kenny Hill's doing really good in life, and I'm proud of him. I know everybody likes to see the fall off of people, but I like stories like this where they end in a good way. And the best part about Kenny Hill, aka Kenny Trill's story, is it's not over. And I wouldn't be shocked if he's a major, well maybe not major, but he's a head coach at a major D1 program in about 5 or 10 years. He's leveling up and he's doing it fast. He's got my respect. I'm wishing him the best of luck. And this just goes to show, this is a great example of, okay, if your college career or high school career doesn't work out, it doesn't mean your life's over. You can succeed in other aspects of even that same sport. Kenny Hill, I'm sure he wanted to be an NFL quarterback, but he realized it's not going to work out, so I still want to be around football, and now he's coaching it. I think this is awesome, and it's arguably one of my favorite stories I've ever done. Let me know your thoughts down below, but right away, baby!